In 2011, the Washtenaw County Farm Bureau's Public Policy Committee worked to develop strong, positive relationships with their elected officials. The 18-member committee carried out the aggressive program put forth by the county board and was highly successful in communicating the legislative needs of agriculture.
Washtenaw Farm Bureau is great. They're everywhere. They've got the breakfast that they do, the legislative briefing breakfast. They've got their annual meeting. They're constantly up here meeting with me or sending me materials on issues that are relevant to farmers. So I can't say enough about how aggressive and effective Washtenaw Farm Bureau is.
Very impressed with how they go about building legislation and how they go about presenting legislation. And I think they're one of the most effective groups that we have in the state as an advocate for a specific industry. And people like me who did not come from a farming background, they've taken the time to make sure I clearly understand what's important.
It's my responsibility to appoint all the members of committees as well as the chairman of committees. So I looked at agriculture both in the appropriations area and in the policy area, and decided that I should appoint people that had agricultural backgrounds. I mean, it seemed like common sense, but that wasn't the way it's always been done. Went back to the folks at Washtenaw County and said, what are your legislative priorities for the year? What are your legislative priorities for the near future? Who do you endorse in this campaign, both in the House, in the Senate, and for the governor's office? And they helped me with all of those things, listed out the priorities, explained them to me, helped me understand how the Washtenaw piece of it might be different than the rest of the state, and then helped to develop a good relationship with them. Washtenaw was proactive without being pushy, and sometimes it's a difficult line to walk along, but they did a great job.
The county hosted more than a dozen meetings throughout the year with their state senator and state representatives, and 4 meetings with their U.S. congressperson or senator. These meetings took the form of office visits, quarterly breakfasts, and farm tours. They covered multiple topics, including the Farm Bill, EPA rulings on pesticide applications, the MEP legislation, food processing, transportation issues, Department of Agriculture and Rural Development funding, government transparency, and local funding.
It was clear that I had a lot to learn about the agricultural business. But I certainly understood business and how important agriculture was to our state economy as well as our Washtenaw County economy. And so being on farm tours and meeting quite regularly with the farmers have been a great source of education for myself, so I can do a better job in adding to the process of making farmers successful in our state.
I think those are effective for getting particularly people who haven't had any contact with agriculture to go see, what farming is like today. Most people have the image of the farmer and his wife with the pitchfork, and they don't understand just how technical farming is today.
The County Farm Bureau sent 10 representatives to the annual Lansing Legislative Seminar and 2 representatives to the annual Washington Legislative Seminar.
The best way to communicate is to get to know the legislator on a personal basis, whether it's going to events and talking with the legislator. The more you personalize it, the better. And then when you have communication, you want to have that communication, again, be just as personal as possible.
In the era of term limits, I can't stress how important it is to stay in touch with legislators, especially the newer ones in the House, the newer ones in the Senate even. You have such a short time to learn a lot here that it should never assume that we already know what those issues are. And the issues are changing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So staying in touch with the legislators is by far and away the #1 priority, I think.
The Public Policy Committee also worked closely with their County Policy Development Committee and Candidate Evaluation Committee in an effort to reach common goals and share a common message through Farm Bureau policy and the election of Friends of Agriculture.
What was interesting when I was interviewed for in my campaign was the extent that the questions really dealt not with farm issues, but statewide issues. And that impressed me because it showed that the Michigan Farm Bureau was not just looking after their own self-interest like so many special interest groups were doing. They were looking at what was best for the state, and that really impressed me a lot.
For the members' efforts to keep legislators informed about issues affecting agriculture, the Washtenaw County Farm Bureau receives the 2011 Michigan Farm Bureau Excellence in Grassroots Lobbying Award.